You see Caitlin Clark right here. You see Caitlin Clark right here. Briann January, nowhere to be found. Briann January's right there talking to somebody else. Caitlin Clark's right here. Okay, now you got Caitlin Clark talking to the official. Yeah, she not bothering you, Briann January. Mind your business. Now look.
There it is, Briann January appearing behind Caitlin Clark like she's got a tracking device on her. And this isn't a one-time thing. This is a pattern that's been happening all season, and people are finally starting to ask the uncomfortable question, is this intentional?
Here goes Briann January. Just right here. Just stalking her. She's right here. Just stalking her. Like, why are you behind me? I'm talking to the ref. Why are you behind me? Like, everybody is going that way to the locker room. Go that way. Why are you right behind me at all times? Like, it's crazy. She's talking to the refs. Briann January, here you come out of nowhere, right here. Here you come. You wasn't even in the frame. Why are you stalking? Why are you hovering over my shoulder every 13 seconds? Like, back, give me 10 feet. Back up.
Watch how January isn't even in the frame initially. Caitlin's talking to the official about a buzzer beater call. Everyone else is heading to the locker room, and then suddenly January materializes right over her shoulder. Not near her, not in the general vicinity. Directly behind her, close enough to be in her personal space. And here's what should bother you. This happened during a Fever versus Aces game, meaning January, as an assistant coach for the Aces, had zero legitimate reason to be hovering over an opposing team's star player during a referee conversation. The league's been trying to sweep this behavior under the rug for months, but the footage doesn't lie. And when you start connecting the dots between what's happening on the court and what's happening in Indiana's front office, a much bigger story emerges.
It's very apparent that the Indiana Fever are building elsewhere outside of Caitlin Clark. Shout out to my boy Mick Talk Hoops. He made some interesting comments, and then we got to get to what Stephen A. Smith had to say as well. And I agree wholeheartedly with what he's saying here. Here he says, it's clear the Fever with Caitlin Clark and without Caitlin Clark are two different teams stylistically. I agree. I don't think they're up in this game if they tried to play this style with Caitlin Clark. Steph's system relies on low-maintenance point guard that doesn't eat the ball and just passes side to side. Then he also says Stephanie White's system absolutely works better without Caitlin Clark. Why I've said it from game 2 last year. You either choose Stephanie White or Caitlin Clark. I think the Indiana Fever have done everything they can to build around Stephanie White, not Caitlin.
Mike Talk Hoops laid it out perfectly, and this is where it gets really interesting. The Fever are statistically a different team with Caitlin Clark on the bench versus when she's on the floor, but not in the way you'd expect. Most franchises build around their generational talent. You draft a player who breaks every college basketball viewership record, who sells out arenas, who makes ESPN actually care about women's basketball, and you construct your entire system to maximize what she does best. Indiana did the opposite. Stephanie White runs an offense that requires a low-maintenance point guard who doesn't dominate the ball. Caitlin Clark is a high-usage pick-and-roll maestro who creates offense through her gravity and her range. Those two philosophies are fundamentally incompatible. So when the Fever look better without their best player, that's not a coincidence, that's by design. And according to multiple people who've been watching this team closely, the front office had 2 full off-seasons to build around Caitlin Clark. They chose not to.
Of course. And I'll take a look at this from WNBA_analyst. It says, Amber Cox and Stephanie White have built a roster and system to work without Caitlin Clark. It doesn't work with Caitlin. I believe that is intentional. I agree that is intentional. They purposely went out of their way to try to build a team to play better without their best player because they want to be able to move on from her. They're sabotaging her, and I think it's 100% intentional.
Read that again. Amber Cox and Stephanie White have built a roster and system to work without Caitlin Clark. It doesn't work with Caitlin. I believe that is intentional. This isn't some random fan theory. This is people inside the basketball analytics community, people who break down film for a living, saying out loud what everyone's been thinking. The Indiana Fever are sabotaging their own franchise player, and the question isn't whether it's happening anymore. The question is why. Is it because Caitlin's success exposes how much the league failed to market itself for decades? Is it because she's getting credit for saving a league that other players built, and that creates resentment? Or is it something else entirely? Something that has to do with who gets to be the face of women's basketball and who the old guard thinks deserves that spot.
Stuff, nonsense that has taken place. Alyssa Thomas and a bunch of people playing victim when they weren't the victim. And Stephen A. Smith spoke to Chini Ogumake, who's also biased and it's just insane. Let's take a look.
Backwards and forwards, all three of you do. And so when I took the position last year, when there was some Caitlin Clark issues, like, listen, there's some jealousy. It's not everybody, it's not most, but there's some resentment there. On one hand, I understood it because I said, hey, you know what? There's ladies that's been in this league for years that did everything they could to uplift and build the sport to this point, and then everybody wants to throw all the praise and all the acclaim in Caitlin Clark's direction. So that's going to build some resentment.
But it don't matter. It don't matter what they did. They didn't do it. I get you. You was trying, but you didn't do it. She brought the eyes. She brought the money. She was the show. It is what it is. Nobody said y'all couldn't play at all. There's been players that can play. The fact of the matter is, y'all couldn't get people to care that y'all was good at playing. Y'all couldn't get nobody to care. And she showed up and got people to care.
Stephen A. Smith just said what most mainstream analysts have been too scared to say. There were players in the WNBA for years who worked to build the league, who put in the time, who were legitimately great at basketball, and nobody cared. Not because they weren't talented, not because they didn't try, but because the product didn't connect with a mass audience. That's not an insult, that's just reality. Then Caitlin Clark shows up, and suddenly arenas are packed. Suddenly games are on prime time. Suddenly the average person who's never watched a WNBA game in their life is buying her jersey and learning the names of her teammates. She didn't just raise her own profile, she raised everyone's salary, everyone's visibility, everyone's leverage in negotiations. And instead of riding that wave, a segment of the league, not everyone, but enough people to create a pattern, decided to treat her like an outsider, like she didn't earn it. Like her success is somehow an insult to the players who came before her. Stephen A. nailed it. A rising tide lifts all boats. Magic and Bird didn't resent each other for making the NBA bigger. They understood that their rivalry made everyone richer. Jordan didn't diminish what came before him. He built on it, and the entire league exploded. That's how you capitalize on a generational star. You don't tear them down. You don't build a system designed to minimize their impact. You ride the momentum as far as it'll take you.
Look at her. She already salty.
Towards this young lady.
Can I give you an example? And sports for people to try to knock off the top dog, right? Like, it's very normal. But what people don't understand is that, like, you know, I played basketball. I started playing when I was 10. I'm 34. So that's 24 years of me seeing the women's game in real time. When Skylar Diggins came out of Notre Dame and went to the WNBA, she was the it girl. She had the culture. She had Drake giving her kisses at the ESPYs. She had celebrities at her games. And when she entered the WNBA, she got a lot of this same type of treatment.
And here's where the narrative starts to crack. Chini Ogumake, who's been one of the more prominent voices defending the league's treatment of Caitlin, tries to compare what's happening now to what Skylar Diggins went through when she entered the WNBA. She says Diggins was the it girl, had celebrities at her games, had Drake showing up courtside, and dealt with physical play when she got to the pros. Okay, let's actually examine that. Skylar Diggins was popular. She had a following. She was on magazine covers, but she didn't break television ratings records. She didn't force networks to move games to bigger time slots. She didn't have entire fan bases from college following her to the WNBA in numbers the league had never seen before. And more importantly, and this is the part people keep dancing around, Skylar Diggins didn't face the same kind of targeting that Caitlin Clark has faced, because she fit a narrative the league was comfortable with.
She cap. First off, you full of crap. Skylar Diggins, I don't care what she did. She didn't get treated the way Caitlin Clark got treated in this league. You can knock it off. You can see Kelsey Plum's comments listen, when when you're white and you're straight, you deal with a different level of it in this league, bro. At least Skylar Diggins had the black part going for her. I mean, yeah, I'm just saying. Like, nah, we're not about to sit here and lie and pretend like Skylar Diggins was treated and targeted and attacked the way Caitlin Clark has been. Knock it off, Chini Ogumake. That's nasty work and you're lying. Stop it. Knock it off.
There it is, the part nobody wants to say on camera, but everyone knows is true. When you're white and you're straight, you deal with a different level of it in this league. The WNBA has spent years building its identity around being a progressive, diverse league, which is great. But somewhere along the way, that turned into an unspoken hierarchy where certain players fit the preferred image and certain players don't. And Caitlin Clark, whether she asked for it or not, became the face of women's basketball while being in the wrong demographic, according to the people who gatekeep the league's culture. That's not speculation. Kelsey Plum has hinted at it, players have subtweeted about it. And now you've got people like this commentator saying it outright. Skylar Diggins had the black card working in her favor, meaning she wasn't seen as a threat to the league's identity in the same way Caitlyn is. And before anyone tries to twist this isn't about Caitlyn being a victim because she's white. This is about a league that claims to be inclusive but has clearly decided that some faces are more acceptable than others. If the WNBA's entire business model is, we're not like the NBA, we represent something different, but then you alienate the player who's actually bringing in new fans because she doesn't fit your cultural checklist, you're not being progressive, you're just being tribal.
Here we go with this lady again. Briann January, stalking. You're acting like a stalker. Why are you hovering over my shoulder every 20 seconds? Briann January caught on camera stalking Caitlin Clark nonstop throughout the game. Caitlin Clark can't even say anything without Briann January being right here. Like, come on, back up. Back up. This is getting crazy. Briann January needs to fall back, find something else to do, stop bothering Caitlin Clark. We got to get into it. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, hype the video.
Let's go back to where this started. Briann January, an assistant coach for the Las Vegas Aces, stalking Caitlin Clark during a game. Not coaching her own team, not focused on her own players. Hovering over an opposing star like she's got a personal vendetta. And the league did nothing. Imagine if an NBA assistant coach was caught on camera repeatedly getting in LeBron's space during games for no reason. Imagine if it happened multiple times and the league just shrugged. There would be fines, there would be investigations. There would be questions about whether this is creating a hostile environment for a star player. But because it's Caitlin Clark, and because there's this unspoken acceptance that she deserves extra scrutiny, it gets brushed off as competitive intensity. It gets reframed as, welcome to the big leagues. It gets excused in ways that would never fly if the roles were reversed.
Here's a big one. The Fever had 2 off seasons to build around Caitlin Clark with their coach and other signings. The front office instead built a roster and coaching staff the complete opposite way to play a style, the opposite of what Caitlin Clark would be able to thrive in. And it's likely too late to reverse course.
So what happens next? Because this isn't sustainable. The Fever are wasting a generational talent by refusing to build around her. The league is allowing behavior that would get people suspended in any other professional sports environment. And the media is so terrified of being accused of bias that they won't call out what's happening in real time. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If the WNBA keeps this up, Caitlin Clark is going to leave, not retire, leave. She'll go play overseas where she'll be treated like the star she is and paid what she's actually worth. Or she'll transition to media, or coaching, or some other avenue where she doesn't have to deal with a league that resents her success. And when that happens, the WNBA will go right back to where it was before she arrived. Empty arenas, games on streaming services nobody subscribes to, players complaining they don't get paid enough while refusing to acknowledge that the revenue isn't there because the audience isn't there.
It's crazy that this lady's just allowed to stalk this girl around the court everywhere. Like, geez, like, find something to do. Find something to do, lady. Like, come on. You're doing too much. You're doing too much. Pardon me. Hold on. I mean, it's crazy how you just stalking this girl all around the floor now.
This is what organizational sabotage looks like. Not loud, not obvious, just a slow, deliberate process of making sure your best player can't succeed in your system. You hire a coach whose philosophy clashes with her skill set. You bring in role players who don't complement her strengths. You allow opposing coaches to harass her without consequence. And then when she struggles, you point to the stats and say, see, we're better without her. It's the same playbook that's been used in corporate environments forever. You can't fire someone outright, so you make their job impossible and wait for them to quit. You create conditions where failure is inevitable, and then you act surprised when it happens. The Fever had every opportunity to do this right. They had the draft capital, they had the cap space. They had the blueprint from every other franchise that successfully built around a star. And they chose chaos instead. They chose spite instead. They chose to protect the feelings of people who didn't move the needle over the player who actually did.
It is what it is.
But on the other hand, a rising tide lifts all boats. And just like folks in the NBA rode that Magic Johnson, Larry Bird wave, and then they ultimately rode the Michael Jordan wave, that's what these ladies should be doing when it comes to Caitlin Clark. I want to know, in your opinion, what kind of, what do you believe played a role in some of this stuff? Is it just isolated incidents, or do you concede that there is some resentment?
Look,
Stephen A is right about the jealousy, but he's still being too diplomatic. This isn't just about players who feel overlooked. This is about a league that's more interested in gatekeeping its culture than growing its audience. This is about people who would rather see the WNBA stay small and authentic than watch it explode into the mainstream if it means the wrong person gets the credit. And the saddest part, the players who are actually losing out on this are the ones who aren't stars. The role players. The bench players. The ones who would benefit most from bigger TV deals, bigger sponsorships, bigger arenas. They're the ones who should be thanking Caitlin Clark every single day for making their league relevant. Instead, they're staying silent while the old guard tears her down, because speaking up means risking their own standing in a league that values loyalty to the culture over loyalty to the business.
WCW, she came from the ceiling like Sting. She popped up from under the ring like The Undertaker, right behind Caitlin Clark, stalking her. Like Caitlin's having a word with the ref. Fall back, lady. Take a look at it, man. Like, I'm tired of it.
Young, make her give it up. Hall.
All right, you got Lexi Hall right there. She makes the game, the buzzer beater before the half, right? The officials waved it off. Now you're going to see Caitlin Clark talking to the ref.
Look at this again. January coming out of nowhere like the Undertaker. That's not basketball. That's not coaching. That's personal. And the fact that it keeps happening, that it's been documented multiple times, that people have been pointing it out for weeks, and the league still hasn't addressed it, that tells you everything you need to know about where the WNBA's priorities actually are. They don't want to protect Caitlin Clark. They want to remind her that she's not in charge. They want to make sure she knows that no matter how many tickets she sells, no matter how many records she breaks, she's still subject to the approval of people who were here first. It's the same energy as a restaurant that's been failing for years, suddenly getting a new chef who turns things around. And instead of celebrating the success, the old staff resents the new chef for exposing how badly they were doing before. It's not about what's best for the restaurant. It's about ego. It's about territory. It's about making sure nobody forgets who was here first, even if being here first didn't actually accomplish anything.
And pretend like Skylar Diggins was treated and targeted and attacked the way Caitlin Clark has been. Knock it off, Chinny Ogumake. That's nasty work and you're lying. Stop it. Knock it off.
That's the line that's going to get people in trouble, but it's also the line that needed to be said. Because if we're going to have an honest conversation about what's happening to Caitlin Clark, we have to be willing to talk about all of it, not just the basketball. Not just the coaching decisions, but the cultural dynamics that are shaping how she's treated, who's allowed to defend her, and who gets silenced for asking the wrong questions. The WNBA has built its brand on being a league that stands for equality, inclusion, and giving women a platform. But if that platform only extends to women who fit a specific mold, if success is only celebrated when it comes from the right kind of player, then the whole thing is performative. It's not inclusion, it's just a different kind of gatekeeping. So here's the real question, and it's the one the league is going to have to answer sooner or later. Do you want to be big, or do you want to be comfortable? Because you can't have both. You can stay small, keep the same audience you've always had, keep the same cultural gatekeepers in charge, and keep pretending that the lack of growth is someone else's fault. Or you can embrace the fact that Caitlin Clark is the best thing that's happened to your league in decades, build around her the way any competent organization would, and ride that wave as far as it'll take you. But what you can't do is sabotage her, alienate her, allow her to be targeted by coaches and players, and then act confused when she eventually walks away. And when that happens, not if, when, don't blame her, don't blame the fans, don't blame the media. Blame the people who had a gift dropped in their lap and chose to throw it away because it came in the wrong wrapping paper. The Fever are wasting her prime, the league is wasting her momentum, and the saddest part is, they know it, they just don't care enough to stop. What do you think? Is this intentional sabotage, or is Indiana just incompetent? Drop your take in the comments. And if you actually want to see the WNBA succeed instead of eating itself alive, hit the like button and subscribe, because we're going to keep covering this until someone in that league finally starts acting like they want to win.